from the NewsChannel 5 network, this is Sportsline.
Hey there, Sportsline on your television. Steve Layman here with you. Glad you are here with us on this Tuesday night on NewsChannel 5 Plus. We're going to tackle an interesting topic tonight. Joe Rexrode from The Athletic will join us in 10 minutes or so. And we're going to talk about the bill that was passed yesterday in California. Governor Gavin Newsom signing it alongside LeBron James and some other athletes and notable people in California. And what the bill allows is it allows for college athletes in the state, starting in 2023, to collect on their name, image, and likeness, to be able to make money off of those things. Up until now, essentially, NCAA member institutions, the schools themselves, have had control of the athletes in that regard. This will make it so in 2023, athletes, at least in California, will be able to cash in on name, image, and likeness. There are other bills out there in other states as people try to progress this and move it along. Now, here's a couple things to think about or discuss here. This is part of the grander discussion that we've had for some time now about whether college athletes should be paid. Now, that gets into some murky water, obviously, because to a lot of people, college athletics is amateur sports. These are student athletes. So you have that debate going back and forth ad nauseum at where would be the place to pay these athletes for their actual play on the field. Fall on which side, wherever you want to, but that is where people go back and forth. The interesting thing about this in particular is that the bill in California Monday was called the Fair Pay to Play Act, but this actually isn't payments for play. That's a misnomer within the bill. No athlete is going to get paid for playing because of this bill. They're going to get paid for who they are. Now, maybe that's splitting between the lines a little bit, but that's a key distinction here. You're going to get paid because you're Tim Tebow or Zion Williamson or Johnny Manziel or whoever that may be. You're not going to get paid because you're playing a Division I sport at Florida or Texas A&M or Tennessee or Vanderbilt or wherever. That, I think, is important. And it's also not going to be the schools that are footing the bill for this. You know, Vanderbilt isn't going to be paying $30,000 a year or whatever for its football players or for its quarterback and then $20,000 for a running back or whatever. What it's going to come down to is if you have value, so sticking with Vanderbilt as an example, if somebody thinks that Riley Neal, the quarterback at Vanderbilt, has real value here in the Nashville community, then if you're a car dealer or whatever, you could use Riley Neal to do endorsements for your car dealership. Or Keyshawn Vaughn, the running back, could sign some autographs for money somewhere. And right now, that would be an NCAA violation. He couldn't do that. That would potentially affect his ability to play football at Vanderbilt and have any eligibility left. In the future, he could sign autographs for money or do a commercial for somebody and make money because of who he is. You could not get paid to go to a school or to play football at the school or baseball at the school or whatever it may be. So that's an important distinction to get here, but it certainly opens the door for the conversation of the larger issue of whether that should be the case at some point. The other interesting thing, though, about this is it was championed by a lot of people, including LeBron James himself after it was signed, about giving money to student athletes who've earned it and to change lives who have earned the opportunity at this point. His exact tweet was, "It will change lives of countless athletes who deserve it." I think that's true in some cases. But how many athletes out there are Tim Tebow popular? Are Johnny Manziel famous? Are Zion Williamson when it comes to Instagram followers and all of that? Not many. And so the exact number of athletes this will really change the course for remains unclear. You're going to have to be somebody to benefit from this. Now, I have always been in favor of this change because, let's face it, go to a college campus. If you have a value for whatever reason, you can market yourself. You can make money while you're in school. If you are a terrific singer or a terrific musician at Belmont right now, we got a lot of those in this town. If you're good, you can go out and play, you can go out and do extra stuff and market yourself, and you can make money. Nobody's got a problem with that. If you're a great artist, you could draw and you could make money off of it. But if you're a great basketball player or a great football player, you can't off of your name right now because you are a college athlete. So I am all for allowing student athletes to have the same privileges that other students on campus have right now. The problem is there's just not many of them. There aren't a ton of people at Belmont, even the really good musicians over there. How many of them make real money? Make real money going out and playing what they're doing right now? How many artists in college can paint or draw and make real money? It's going to be the same thing with athletes. I mean, maybe the quarterback has some value. Maybe the star basketball player has some value. But are you going to pay the backup quarterback? Are you going to pay the third-string quarterback? Are you going to pay the linebacker core? What about the women's field hockey player? I mean, I don't think this extends very far. So the number of lives it actually changes in this regard, I think, is very much up in the air. The problem I think that comes in here is, even with good intentioned things like allowing athletes to control their own name and likeness, that seems pretty obvious to me as a good thing. The problem is, though, when you make it into a political issue, which happened yesterday in California, and there's dozens more states out there who have similar types of bills that have been written or put out there or are in the process of being done. Florida talks about how they want to have one done by early next year. This is going to happen in other places. And the problem with that is, I think it's political posturing more than actual trying to change something. Maybe it increases the conversation for the NCAA, but California doesn't want to police this. Gavin Newsom and the state of California have enough problems policing their own laws that are on the books right now. Walk around the streets in California right now. It's a mess because they don't police themselves. Now they're trying to make it harder for the NCAA to police its member institutions. And if California passes a law, and then Florida passes a law, and then Minnesota passes a law, and other people pass laws, and they're all different, how does the NCAA put together rules to put it all together? It makes it more difficult. This is something the NCAA has to do. And they need to do it. I'm not saying they don't. They've shied away from it for too long. They need to make it easier for the athletes to monetize themselves, to make money off their name, image, and likeness, if possible. I mean, if you are popular enough, if you are good enough for that to happen, by all means, you should be able to do it. But there needs to be a set standard of rules for everybody to deal with. You can't have one law in California and one in Florida and then be different, and that somehow supersede what the NCAA tries to put in place. There are 1,100 institutions under the NCAA umbrella. 1,100. These rules have to apply to all of them. And the murky thing about the name and likeness stuff is Okay, if you're Zion Williamson, you've got Instagram followers, and you can do something and make money, I love it. But what if Duke, in the recruitment process of Zion Williamson, hooks him up with a car dealership or somebody who wants to pay him to be Zion Williamson? Is that okay? Duke's not paying him the money, but if they start the relationship, are you good with that? Alabama and Auburn, they're fighting for a football recruit. You good with boosters connecting with those players? I don't know. I don't know what the answer is to that. And that's the thing that the NCAA has to be wary about here, and I know they are, and that's why it's taken so long, is how you make this so it doesn't become a competitive advantage and doesn't open the door for rampant cheating. I'm all for players getting the opportunity to get paid, but you got to find a way to do it within the rules. And that's what this law does not touch at all. We'll talk more about that. We will talk about it with Joe Rexrode coming up from the Athletics. First, we'll sneak in a phone call here real quick. Let's get to LD. LD, thanks for the call.
Hey, good afternoon, Steve. Before you get with Joe, man, let's talk about the intangibles here, man. What's going on at the NCAA level, man, is like an opportunity to open up a barrage of, I guess, classic opportunities for those children. It is kind of unruly because the NCAA and its players do not officially hand out catalogs or anything where you can see what can be done and what cannot be done. We here in this area of football, the SEC Southeastern Conference, we only know of board members, and attendance. We don't know about the logistics coming in or the laws that they're going to lay out in Tennessee. There was once a guy here by the name of Ned Ray McWhorter, and all those people who are in sports outside of Ned Ray's timeline, we knew about certain areas of what could be accomplished going to college, but there was no way you was going to be a acceptable athlete and get paid. They weren't going to just hand you an extra incentive for just going to their colleges here. And it was guys like Allen Houston out of Tennessee. We saw Ronnie McMahon. I mean, it would have been easy to see those guys do a commercial or any kind of magazine or kind of sports catalog for these companies, but the major CEOs had not did any groundbreaking things with college sports at all. It was just the CEOs versus the people who was coming out of colleges. And the billions are on the line, man. That's what makes it so good to see LeBron there, is that if you have a investor who does things like LeBron has just done, speaking for the money that could be placed right back into the same circle of education. You know what I'm saying? We're not talking about in sports. We're just talking about educational payments. But again, Steve, before you get with Joe, man, let's just look at that eyesight, because we are in the SEC area and we don't get to see those things like USC Trojans and all those things that those kids are going to be able to see. But we do have those players in our city now, though. Yeah.
All right, LD, thanks. I think that's really good stuff. We'll tackle a bunch of those things with Joe Rexrode come up. We got to get to that break. Joe Rexrode of The Athletic coming up on the other side as we continue to tackle this issue, the name, image, likeness bill about getting college athletes to control their own image and possibly get some money for their services while still in college and playing for their respective universities. More of your phone calls coming up later as well. This is Sportsline on NewsChannel 5+.